Let me start here. Some of you aren't stuck because you're lazy. Some of you aren't stuck because you're weak. Some of you aren't stuck because you don't want better. You're stuck because you're grieving something you haven't named. And grief doesn't just show up when somebody dies. Grief shows up when a dream dies, a version of you dies, a relationship ends, an identity breaks, a life you thought you'd live disappears, a childhood you needed never happened. So let me ask you something real. What if the thing you keep calling a mindset problem is actually grief you've been carrying alone? What if the anger is grief? What if the numbness is grief? What if the perfectionism is grief? What if the I don't care anymore is grief? Today, day 15, we're going to stop treating grief like a secret because you can't forgive yourself fully until you feel what's been living underneath. Hey, my beautiful people, welcome back. We are on day 15 of this 28-day self-forgiveness journey. And I just want to say, if nobody has told you this lately, I'm proud of you for staying because this isn't surface work. This is soul work. This is the kind of healing that doesn't just change your mood, it changes your life. Today's episode is called The Grief Beneath It. And I chose this topic because I've watched so many of us, myself included, try to heal by being strong, when what we really needed was to finally admit we were grieving. There was a time in my life when I thought grief meant weakness. I thought if I let myself feel it, I'd never get back up. So I kept moving. I stayed productive. I stayed helpful. I stayed on go. But grief doesn't disappear because you stay busy. Grief waits, and it comes out sideways in how you react, in what you tolerate, in what you avoid, in how you talk to yourself, in how you love, in how you don't trust, in the way your body stays tense, in the way your spirit stays tired. By the end of this episode, I want you to walk away with a clear definition of grief beyond death, the real reason grief blocks self-forgiveness, a personal story from my own life, and steps to help you locate, name, and honor your grief without drowning in it. Let's breathe and go there together. So what is the grief beneath it? It's the pain under the pattern. It's the sadness under the self-sabotage, the loss under the anger, the disappointment under the control, the heartbreak under the numbness. Grief is the emotional response to loss. And again, loss isn't only funerals. Loss is when something you loved, needed, expected, or hoped for is no longer there. Sometimes grief is losing people, losing safety, losing time, losing innocence, losing your voice, losing your body the way it used to be, losing a marriage you wanted to work, losing trust in yourself, losing an identity you built your life around. And grief matters because you can't forgive yourself for what happened if the part of you that's grieving still feels abandoned. Let me say it plain. When grief goes unacknowledged, you don't just stay sad, you stay stuck. Because grief that's not given language becomes shame, it becomes rage, it becomes avoidance, it becomes bitterness, it becomes fear, it becomes I don't care, it becomes I'm fine, it becomes whatever, it becomes I'm just tired. So here are some questions I want you to sit with. What happens when we ignore grief? What happens when we keep pretending we're over it? What happens when we keep calling it being strong while we're bleeding inside? We start building a life on top of pain that never got closure, and that hurts your growth because your spirit can't move forward while part of you is still back there holding what you lost by yourself. Self-forgiveness needs grief because grief tells the truth. Something mattered, something hurt, something ended. Something changed. Naming grief is not weakness. It's reality. And reality is where healing begins. Let me bring you into my life with this one. There was a season where my life changed in ways I did not ask for, did not expect, and did not feel ready for. Sometimes I share the story of me breaking patterns, detoxing from attention, walking away from old versions of myself. But what I don't always talk about is what that transformation cost me. Because healing has a price. People think healing is just getting better, like it's only gain. But healing is also loss. I had to grieve. Relationships I outgrew. The version of me that thought love had to be chased. The identity I wrapped around other people's approval. The future I imagined with people who weren't meant to stay. The comfort of old habits. The familiarity of being needed. And chilly, that grief didn't feel poetic. It felt like a funeral I didn't have permission to attend because the world doesn't always validate those kinds of losses. Nobody brings flowers when you lose your innocence. Nobody shows up with casseroles when you lose a dream. Nobody sends cards when you lose your sense of self. So I kept it quiet. I told myself, be grateful. Keep going. Others have it worse. Don't fall apart. Don't be dramatic. You're strong. And yes, I was strong. But I was also grieving. And I refused to admit it. So grief came out as anger. I got snappy. I was impatient. I stayed on edge. I couldn't sleep right. And I kept asking myself, why am I still so heavy if I already chose healing? Then one day I broke. Not in a cute way, in a quiet, tired, alone way. I remember sitting on my bed, staring at the wall, and I whispered, I miss who I used to be. And I felt guilty for even saying it because I was trying to become a better me. But I missed the old me. Not because she was healthier, but because she was familiar. That's a grief most people don't talk about. Grieving your old self while trying to love your new self. And that day I realized I had been trying to forgive myself without honoring what I lost. I was moving forward while leaving the grieving parts of me behind. So I did something different. I let myself cry for who I used to be. I let myself mourn the years I spent in survival mode. I let myself grieve the time I can't get back. I let myself grieve the love I begged for. I let myself grieve the girl who didn't know she deserved gentleness. And in that grieving, I didn't fall apart. I came together because grief didn't destroy me. It returned me to myself. And maybe that's what you need too. All right, let's walk this like coaching, okay? Day 15 isn't about spiraling into sadness. It's about giving grief a seat at the table so it doesn't keep showing up as chaos. Here's how. Step 1, notice what keeps resurfacing. Grief is persistent. It comes back until you listen. So ask yourself, what pain keeps finding me no matter how much I try to move on? Is it a relationship, a childhood memory, a regret, a lost dream, a season you can't stop replaying, a version of you can't stop missing, a betrayal you never processed, a body change, health change, or life change? Whatever keeps resurfacing, that's grief knocking. Step 2, name the loss. Don't generalize it. Get specific. Instead of, I'm just sad, try, I'm grieving the love I didn't get. I'm grieving the way my marriage changed. I'm grieving the life I thought I'd have. I'm grieving my old confidence. I'm grieving my sense of safety. I'm grieving the fact that I had to grow up too fast. I'm grieving the time I wasted trying to prove my worth. Naming is power. Because what you can name, you can hold. Step 3, ask what that loss meant to you. This part is deep. Ask, what did that person, dream, season, belief represent for me? Maybe that relationship represented hope. Maybe that dream represented freedom. Maybe that old version of you represented safety. Maybe that season represented innocence. Grief is rarely about the surface thing. It's about what it symbolized. Step 4, let yourself feel without judging. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Just feel. Cry if you need to. Breathe if you need to. Sit in silence if you need to. And when your mind says, get over it, you say, I'm not here to get over it. I'm here to go through it. Feelings are not failures. They are messages. Step 5, write a grief letter. Write a letter to what you lost. Example prompts. I miss you because I'm angry because I wish I could have. What I needed from you was what I learned from losing you is what I'm ready to release now is you don't have to send it. This letter is for closure inside you. Step 6, invite self-forgiveness into the grief. Now speak to yourself like this. I forgive you for how you survived this loss. I forgive you for not knowing how to carry it. I forgive you for the ways you protected yourself. I forgive you for being human. Let grief and forgiveness hold hands. That's how healing becomes whole. Let me tell you what happens when you stop running from grief. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. Unprocessed grief leaks. It leaks onto your marriage, your kids, your friendships, your goals, your body. But when grief gets witnessed, it stops attacking your life from the shadows. You become emotionally honest. You don't have to pretend you're fine. You start saying, something hurt me. Something ended. I'm still carrying this. And there is power in that truth. You reclaim the parts of you that got left behind. Grieving is how you go back for yourself. It's how you tell your inner child, your younger self, your wounded self, I'm here now. You soften toward yourself. You stop calling yourself weak. You start seeing yourself as someone who loved, hoped, trusted, tried. And if you can see that, self forgiveness becomes natural. Now, a couple pitfalls. Pitfall number one, thinking grief means you're going backwards. No, grief is movement. It's the kind that clears the path. Pitfall number two, trying to logic your way out of grief. Listen, grief doesn't understand your resume. It doesn't care that you're doing better. If it's still there, it needs attention, not a lecture. So here's today's truth. There is grief beneath some of your hardest patterns. You didn't just wake up bitter, you woke up hurt. You didn't suddenly stop trusting. You got disappointed. You didn't become numb because you don't care. You became numb because you cared too much for too long without feeling safe to fall apart. And if that's your story, I want you to hear me. You don't need to shame yourself for grieving. You need to honor yourself for surviving a loss nobody saw. Grief is love with nowhere to go. So give it somewhere. Give it breath. Give it tears. Give it words. Give it a witness. And then watch what frees up inside you. Here's your day 15 affirmation. I honor what I lost. I honor what it cost me. And I forgive myself for how I carried it. Say it again. I honor what I lost. I honor what it cost me. And I forgive myself for how I carried it. You're not weak for grieving. You're brave for staying soft in a world that taught you to harden. My love, thank you for letting me sit with you today. If this episode touched something tender in you, please don't rush past it. Be gentle with that place. That's where healing is blooming. And if you know somebody who keeps calling themselves too emotional, when really they're just grieving, share this with them. Make sure you're following the podcast so you can keep walking this 28-day journey with me. For deeper resources, coaching, and tools, visit https://wayofthewiseworld.com. I love you. I'm proud of your heart. And I'll meet you tomorrow for day 16. Until then, let your grief breathe. Let your truth speak. And let your forgiveness grow.